So today we're going to do that wet on wet technique onto our drawing of the Notre Dame. And we're going to be using these liquid watercolors. They'll be in a tray. These are permanent. I would wear a smock, roll up your sleeves, things like that. And I'll have them in color order, so red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Like the violet's very dark, but I will have a little V on the side, but if you just kind of slightly lift it up, you'll know. But I'll be double checking that they're in the right order before you even get it. And then you'll have a watercolor brush and then watercolor, okay, or water, sorry. And then we'll eventually do the splattering on the white next. This is the most important today. So first of all, when you get yours back, and I've already done this, I want to double check. I have my name, my class code on the back. I'm going to look at it and make sure I'm pretty symmetrical. I mean, we're not robots, we're not going to be perfect, but I want to make sure I'm trying to do the same thing on both sides of my picture. And then when we do this wet on wet, before I even do that, I want to make sure I've erased all my pencil lines. And so I have erased them. Some areas I was a little darker, so I can still see them, but I'm not too worried. The wet on wet should cover that up, okay? So you'll need your water, and then here's your paints up here. We're not splattering, okay? Remember, these are permanent paints. So what I usually do with wet and wet, let's see. Hopefully I didn't ruin that. My brush was dirty, so somebody didn't clean out my brush, so check that first. So let's say I go into the green. So I'm just gonna literally take my brush and just place it on here. Then I can go into like the blue, and I'm just gonna let the colors bleed. Okay, so that area here was all wet, so it's blending really, really nicely. So I'm gonna add some more water in this next area. Maybe I'm gonna go to the orange. Maybe I'm going to go into the red. And maybe I'm going to go in here to the violet. Now this water is not spreading so much, so it makes me think I need to add a little more. And that's okay to add water right on top of it. I'll go back into here to the violet. Now it's spreading a little bit more. So this paper is pretty fast absorbing, so I would just work at a little section at a time. And it's okay to go over an area, but you don't want to keep going over and over and over an area, because what is going to happen is you're going to have the paper rip. Even though this paper, that's what I want to see. This paper I specifically am using because it's a heavier weight and it will stand up to the colors. Now I added a little bit of orange with that blue, so that's going to get a brown, but I should be okay. So we're trying to get this splatter effect like you see here with all the colors, so it looks like the Notre Dame at night. So I'm just going to go over it, kind of wet an area down, and then go to a color and literally drop the color in there. And you'll notice that every time I go to the water, or the color I should say, I am making sure to clean out my brush, okay? So I'm gonna do that over the whole thing. I don't need to do the background because the background is, it's gonna be cut out. So I always go to the water, I go to the violet. If it seems like it's drying a little bit more, sometimes I just add a little bit of water on my brush and then add it to it so it kind of bleeds and spreads a little bit more. So when you're doing this, like right there, see, I didn't add water, so let me just add some water in this area. And you'll know, like I just did, you'll know right away if you did not, because the colors will not bleed. Okay, so I'm just gonna add it to it. I'm not worried about the background. If you get like a little pool of water like that, I can kind of move my paper. Or if I get too much, I could even take a paper towel and blot it, but I'm not too worried about that. And then I go over here. Especially in front of the yellow, I always make sure I clean out my brush, because that yellow is a weaker color and it's gonna change its color really, really fast. Okay, see, I just added some water in there. And I can have some white spaces, and I'm fine with that. okay? And then once you finish painting the whole thing, you're gonna place this on the drying rack. You're going to wipe your area off, which I'm just gonna get a paper towel to dry that area off. And then you will not need this cup for the next part, okay? So the next part, we're gonna splatter paint. So with the liquid watercolor, we just literally painted it and then dropped the color on. With the splatter painting, we're gonna use some splatter method. So I'm gonna write my name, class code, turn it over. And this is basically white paint with a little bit of water in it. And then you're gonna take your brush, okay? So this is not permanent, so if you do get a little bit on yourself, you're fine. So you can dip your brush in there and then literally splatter it. You see I'm just kind of tapping it over my finger. You're gonna get different sized dots, some big ones and little ones with this method. The next one is just like taking your thumb and like moving it like that. This is gonna be more of a fine splatter, okay, for like the starry night. So I kind of like this method. I feel like it gives it a real star look, but I think it's nice too to combine them. So when I'm doing this, if you keep your thumb over it and keep it near the paper, you're gonna be fine. If you do get a little bit on you, like I said, it's waterproof. It's water, it will wash with water, sorry. And then when this is finished, you're gonna put this on the drying rack, and then you'll clean out your materials. And like this had a little bit of pink paint. Thankfully that didn't show over this, but you know, not everyone does a great job cleaning brushes. So I would just beware and clean out your brushes before you even do any of these techniques, and you should be fine. And then next week when you're in here, we're gonna cut out your Notre Dame and glue it to here, and then you'll be finished.